Hey everyone, Graham here from therecordingrevolution.com, and welcome to another 5 minutes to a better mix tutorial. We're looking at 31 mixing tips in 31 days. And I got another one for you today on sort of prepping your mix and starting out your mix, and I call it the mix bus half rule. And really it's a rule for myself, and I wanted to share it with you because you might find it useful. And what that is whatever I want to do on the mix bus, I simply reduce it in half. And here's the idea. Now your mix bus is your master fader. It's that final track that all your tracks are dumping through, okay? Now you may not like to put any processing on your mix bus, and then you don't have to even worry about this rule. But if you do put something on your mix bus, a compressor, EQ, some tape saturation, things like that, then this might serve you well. We typically like to just boost things around, play with things until we can hear the effect and we're satisfied with it. But again, if I'm processing something on my master fader, then I'm really processing every single track. Any move I do on my mix bus is multiplied across every single track on my mix. I boost 1 dB of gain at 1K. If you have 20 tracks, and that's 20 different EQ boosts that you've been doing, that's 20 dB of gain you're boosting. And so you kind of see the multiplication happen. Well, here's something that really helped me out. I got to give credit to Craig Anderton. He was doing a quick tutorial at the NAMM show last year on mastering. And so this is really a mastering concept. And he said whatever he likes to do in mastering, any move he wants to do, once he gets it to sound good, he says just half it and live with it. Learn to live with it in half. And that stuck with me, not just in mastering, but I brought it over to the context of mixing. Whatever I do on the mix bus, which is a lot like processing a stereo track, where anything you do to the stereo track is going to affect every instrument, then be a little more conservative. And one way to measure that is to cut everything you want to do in half. So here's a real simple example. I've got a couple of plugins on my master fader. Let's start with the compressor. Okay, I dialed it in to find some mix bus compression that I liked, where I felt it squeezed my track a little bit, squoze it a little bit, squeeze, squoze, you pick. I could be wrong. And then what I'm going to do is probably have to just dial it back. Yeah, it's just pumping way too much. So if you're playing with mix bus compression and you're trying to start to hear what is it doing, is it doing anything? Once you get to the point where you hear it doing something, you probably need to dial it back. So one thing you could do is cut the ratio in half. I've got it 3:1. I could cut it down to 1.5 to 1. See if that does something. Yeah, it cuts the gain reduction obviously in half, and so it's only hitting -3 dB, so it's a little more conservative. There you go. Cut that in half. I've got an EQ on here. I did a little boost, a little shelf at about, 3K, because I felt that the song was a little muffled. Here it is without it. So it really opened up the top end, but it's too harsh. So the point I started to hear it, like, oh, it's opening it up, it's too much. It's like a 4.5 dB boost. That's way too much. So I'm just gonna cut that in half. Let's do, 2 dB, 2.2, something like that. So not as dramatic or drastic of a difference, but it still helps. That's the idea. And then let's move on to some tape saturation. Okay, so here is the virtual tape machines, and I've got it set up where I'm dialing in about 6 dB of the saturation effect. It tries to compensate with the output, so I'm just hearing the effect, and I like the sound of it. So I like that effect, but again, it's a lot of saturation, and I really don't want to apply too much to the mix. I just want to kiss it. I want to give it some vibe. So let me dial the dB back to about 3 dB of the effect. Even though we cut it all back, take a listen to the difference we've made. Here's before and after. Still a dramatic difference. You're still doing plenty of processing and you're still getting the impact that you probably initially wanted. So this is a rudimentary example. This is completely somewhat arbitrary. I just wanted to show you 3 examples of if you're doing anything on the mix bus, whether at the beginning or the end of your mix, whenever you get to the point where you hear it doing what you want it to do, just cut it in half and you'll probably save yourself a lot of trouble and have a more clear musical mix. Hope that helps. Again, this is Graham at therecordingrevolution.com. Hope to see you on tomorrow's video.